Hello everybody and welcome to Going for Goldbridge, or should I say hygiene. And I'm not talking to a fan of the channel called Gene, although we might have a few. I'm talking hygiene. Wash your hands. We are about to go into a global lockdown, and this is something we'll be talking about in a moment, amongst taking your questions as well. Very, very serious. Cities on lockdown, and don't worry, Blue are not reforming. Got the city on lockdown. Look, this is very serious. This is very serious, but Going for Goldbridge and me, I am serious, but I like to bring a bit of banter in. Laughter's the best form of medicine. I'm not saying that if you've got this virus, tell someone a joke and they're going to get better. That might not happen, but there's a lot of reason in life to be negative and sad, and I think if you can find an opportunity to be positive and smile and laugh, then you should always try and do that. But look, hygiene's very important, and I'm not saying hello to Gene, but I'm trying to get it in your head. Washing your hands and all that as much as you can, and being, good with your hygiene will help. So keep it in your head. Hygiene. But look, what are we heading into? And I've got a really good story to tell you that I should have told you last week that I thought I told you before. So I'll tell you that in a moment. But look, let's talk about it seriously. A lot of people getting very agitated. Quite frankly, I don't disagree with them. In my life, I've never seen anything like this. And I don't think we've had it. Even if you're like 60, 70, I don't think they've had this. I think there's been major power cuts, strikes, everything like that in the UK, but nothing like what we're seeing here. I mean, Italy is a country on lockdown. I never would have thought that could have happened. I was saying this before, imagine Merry Christmas was trending on Twitter this morning, and I was thinking, please let it be Christmas, back in Christmas in 2019. You wake up in the morning, you open your presents, you have your smoked salmon and your scrambled egg, down the pub for a couple of pints, back home for a turkey dinner and just slouch in front of the telly. Bring that back. Bring it back. But no, because if somebody told us what 2020 was going to offer up, like I said last week, the floods, the fires, what we're having with this virus, it's just ridiculous. And lockdown of a country like Italy is just very close to home and very, very hard to fathom. And what does that mean? And I think, you know what, we've got to get serious with this. We've got to actually accept the fact that we are going to be on lockdown in a lot of countries worldwide, and deal with that, because the greater issue here is slowing down this virus. There's two things that you need that we really need to know about it that is sort of being spread out there. One, if we just let it run freely, our National Health Service in this country and many other countries cannot cope. It cannot cope. And from what I've read about it, 80% of people who get this are going to get a mild illness. 15% are going to get quite serious illness and may need, oxygen support, and 5% are going to get critically ill. If the whole of the country get it, which won't happen anyway, but even if like 15% of the country get it, our National Health Service cannot deal with that 5% that are really ill, or the 15% that may need help as well. So it is all about delaying it. The only way you're going to do that is by lockdown. It is, stopping these gatherings, trying to stop people's social interaction. My problem with that is that, look, it makes total sense to me, but at what point do you, and then somebody says, oh, well, what are we going to do about football matches? Well, look, I've said this before, you can play behind closed doors, but then what if a footballer gets it? Like, what if a Liverpool player gets it, and then the whole team's on lockdown? They won't be able to play United or whoever they've got to play. So you could end up with a situation where the Euros gets cancelled, and then you cancel football for a month like Italy have, and then you just play into the summer. That is an option, because people were expecting to play in the Euros anyway. But the problem really is that, and I can see the other side of it, is that if you put us on lockdown and everyone gets put on lockdown, then everyone's got to get put on lockdown across the whole world. But how do you put on lockdown some South American country or an African country or, another country that doesn't have the infrastructure that we have in the westernized world, or in Japan, or even in China? So how do you do that? And the problem is, let's say Italy locks down for a month, UK locks down for a month, France locks down for a month. We all lock down for a month, we all stop playing football. The massive financial implications here. We all do that. We basically get a hold of this virus. We open up the doors again, and then somebody wanders in from Iran, because they haven't done that, on a flight, and then it starts to go round again. And until there's a cure for this, I think we've got 12 months of it. So it's very difficult to know what's going to happen. And for me, the big problem is the financial thing. Whether you're a plumber, whether you work in a cinema, a pub, a restaurant, or anything like that, the lockdown and the financial ramifications is going to be huge, and there's going to be a lot of people going through a lot of issues with this. So it is very serious. But my stance is that I'm expecting this lockdown to come. I'm expecting it to come, and how we deal with that is going to be very, very, very interesting. I mean, look, I'll still be going for Goldbridge. We'll have to think of things to do on the United stand, and that's football, and that might be Football Manager, it might be FIFA, because I think ultimately we're all going to go stir crazy, aren't we, if they ban football and they ban social gatherings and cinema and everything like that. I mean, Netflix is going to do well, isn't it? But look, it's unprecedented times, and it's going to be very interesting. And look, the reality is, when you look at the facts that are out there at this moment in time, if you're under the age of 50, you're probably not going to have many problems with this. In fact, if you're over the age of 70, you start to fall into the danger category. But we all know people are in that category. And are we just going to go, you know what, let's just carry on, and you know, those older people, they've had a good innings, let's just see what happens with them? No, that's an irresponsible world to live in, and we don't want to be making those sort of decisions. So look, let's see what happens over the next coming days and weeks with it. But it is a serious issue, and it is serious. And I think with anything serious, you get the conspiracy theorists. Oh, it's not that bad, it's just as bad as, it's no worse than normal flu. Well, it is worse than normal flu because it's very, very, very new. We've never had it before, and it's very, very contagious, and it's going to overwhelm the National Health Service. I think, to answer that point about conspiracy theories, if we had infinite or even enough ventilators and ICU departments and then ICU beds, intensive care beds, then we probably would just go, you know what, the financial cost it's going to be to lock down, let's just go along with it. But we're not going to do that because we haven't got the resources for it. And difficult decisions are already having to be made in Italy, whereby they haven't got enough beds, people are still getting ill, and they're having to go, we can't treat you. It's like the triage on, you know, it's like Napoleon Wars, isn't it? You know, back in the day where you're fighting for queen and country, and they just haven't got enough surgeons. So they're there in the bloody, on the battlefield at the back in the medical tents, and they're going, I can save him, I can't save him. The work to save him isn't worth it when I can save those 3 people. But if I work on him, those 3 could die. And that's horrible, but we could be going back to that if we're not careful, and that's why they've got to curb it. And I think in this country, when this video is going out, we're still going ahead with the Cheltenham Festival, we're still going ahead with football games, and I think a decision's going to have to be made. And if it's going to have to be made, I think it probably should be made now. I'd like to see things done behind closed doors. I still would rather have that because it's still something that I like to enjoy, and you want to be able to watch that. But how long that's viable for, I don't know. So serious, unprecedented times. But what I would say is calm. Calm is very important, because ultimately what we're dealing with factually is not a huge, massive death rate for everybody. The risky people are the people who are older with underlying health conditions. But it's how crippling it can be to our National Health Service. For most of us, hopefully, it's not going to be that, and it's just common sense. Look, seriousness stuff over. I think this is just something that we, as a country, as a world, we've got to do, and you know, we will get through it. And I think we've got to get through it together. I think united, not in a Manchester United way, united together as a society. This is something that could ultimately bring us together. It could bring us together, and we've got to work together. Whether it's countries, people, we've got to work together, and we've got to be sensible. So, hygiene. I want to go on from last week. A lot of people got a really good feedback last week about the aggression and anger issues that I have. And it's funny because only this week I was bending down to get something. Alright, I was going in the biscuit tin. I didn't judge the top of the work surface enough, and I cracked my head on it, and I was like, I just stood up and I went, I can feel it now. And I went, oh, you. And I went to say the C word, and I went, oh, you naughty thing. And I just said something absolutely stupid. But the aggression was there again. I'm going to have to work on it. But I don't know whether I do have to work on it. I think maybe people get it. But I didn't swear, and that's the main thing. And I'm trying my best with that. But I was talking in the mod group with George Kyle, and he mentioned it as well, about how some of the story I told last week about when I got sent off. And I thought, because I tell so many stories, I don't know whether I told this one. And he says, I can't remember you telling this one. So I said, I'll tell it next week. So this is angry me when I used to play football, like in my mid-teens, very competitive. Still very competitive now, still get very angry. We were playing a football match, and it was getting quite tense. And our striker got into a bit of a scuffle over in the corner. Now, I was a centre-back. I ran over to get involved like everybody does. And while we're trying to get involved, the linesman, who was the dad of one of the people we were playing, because we were about 15, grabs hold of me and just one-handed just chucks me, because I'm not going to be massive at 15. So I got up and grabbed him, and I ended up getting booked. Getting booked even though I'd been assaulted by the linesman. So then I went mad at the referee, and he got the manager over and said, if you don't take him away, I'm going to send him off. And I was just taken away going, you fucking idiot, I can't believe the injustice, I can't believe it. He grabbed hold of me, and I was just thinking, you know what, it's really funny, isn't it? Because if that had happened to me when, if that happened in the modern game, grabbing a 15-year-old and throwing him on the floor when you're a linesman, it just couldn't happen. But I did get my revenge, because the funny thing was, he was the linesman in the second half on the defensive side, so they swapped the linesman. So I was playing centre-back. His son was playing on the right wing, and they ended up with a breakaway down the touchline, and he's the linesman, and then all that team's mum and dads are on that side, and basically he was a bit quicker than me, so I just got over there and I took one for the team, but I didn't do it in a way that it was going to be an obvious yellow card. I sort of took him down whilst I did one of those where I got a little bit of the ball and most of him, and they're on the touchline, they're all going rah, 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 and people are swarming the ref, and as I got up I went, what are you moaning about? And they went, you're disgusting, that's a foul. And I went, well, no, it's not a foul, this is a foul. And as I went past his son, who was on the floor, I just gave him a little kick up the arse. I should have been sent off. I didn't get sent off. And don't come at me with that's disgusting, because this was in the early 90s. Well, no, it wasn't the early 90s. When would it be? Mid-90s. And, people used to do it then. Vinnie Jones, Roy Keane. So, there you go. Anyway, let's get into some of your questions. I did get asked the question about, can you tell us about any of the good detective jobs you did when you were in the police? And I can think of a couple off the top of my head that I was like, I think attention to detail is very important. If you're going to do any investigative work, attention to detail is really important. And there's two things that stand out to me. There was one where I was working on quite a big, serious case. I can't give you the details of the case, obviously, but it was high end threat to it was murder. Okay, and they basically brought me in on the CCTV. I'd missed the first day because I was off, and when I came into work they said, can you just go and redo the CCTV trawl? And a CCTV trawl is basically the incidents happen there, and then you go around the area looking for because obviously people will look for CCTV in the location it's happened, but CCTV around the area could be quite useful. And the story was that they think that the offenders had come into the area in a car, got out the car, done what they did, and then got in a car, got back in the car and driven off. So I went to do the CCTV trawl with another person, and we'd basically been told that the CCTV trawl had already been done the day before by somebody, but they just wanted us to go and double check it. And whilst we were there, the person who'd done the trawl says, you might want to check this road, but I've definitely done all these roads. So when we got there, I said to the guy, you go and do that road, I'm just going to go and double check around this area. And I ended up going to this place that it happened was on this road here, and then up the hill on the corner there was a pub, and the pub had a camera on it on the door. And I rang the guy up who'd done the trawl up, and I said, did you not see the camera on the door of the pub? And he went, yeah, but the camera on the pub door is pointing down on the road. It's just there for people. It's just there to cover the bouncers when people are going in. And I was like, okay. Went into the pub. So can I just have a look at your CCTV system? And actually, when you looked at it, the camera is on the door, but the angle of the camera did sort of catch down the road as well. Anyway, so can I have a look at your CCTV? And whilst I'm looking at it, went to the relevant time. You see the car go past the door, and just in the distance you can see it going down the road, stop, and you can see the lights on there. But as it goes past the car, past the corner, you can see what model it is. I then went away from where the location was, because I knew what car it was, and tracked the car for 5 miles to a motorway where I got it on an automatic number plate recognition, and identified the car which had come up from London. So I was quite proud of that. The interesting thing with that one though is that would have solved the case in itself, because we would have tracked the offenders in the car, and that's what we did. But it was really good work, and it was really good in relation to the case. But also, the one of the offenders had dropped a ticket in the stairwell on the way down, and the ticket was to do with the train ticket, so we tracked him that way as well. But attention to detail, we got the CCTV as well, which was good. So yeah, that's one. I don't want to bore people too much. There's a few more, but that's the only reason I ever wanted to do it, and that's why the only reason I did it for 10 years, because it starts to get repetitive. I only went in there because I wanted to be a detective. That's what I wanted to do, and having done it for a few years, it sounds really blunt, and I've said it before, that you start to, when you've dealt with one serious assault, you've dealt with, it's always, the sad thing is it's always a new victim and it's always a new family that has to deal with it. But the mindset of investigating, because you have to have that mindset, you don't, there are people who go and deal with the family and their grief and things like that, but you as an investigator, you might be interviewing 3 or 4 suspects. So you've always got to be professional in that way. You've also got to investigate with an investigation's mind. So you've got to try and not focus on the victim in it, and try and focus on being methodical and attention to detail. And when you do that, the cases keep coming in, and they've always got a different story, and there's always a sad story behind it, but the cases are always following a similar route. And you start to see, like I say, you start to see new victims, you start to see similar patterns. And this is why people always say with murder, a certain percentage of murders will be done by people who are very close to them. Not always, but you can start to, like, one of the sayings I always say, and I've said it to Flex and everyone as well, is that, and I liken it to football or anything, I don't believe in coincidence. And I don't believe in coincidence because of what I did in detective work, because coincidence is not a thing. You don't go to court and go, oh, it's a coincidence. There's not a coincidence. There's bad luck, but there's not coincidence. So I don't believe in coincidence, because everything has happened for a reason. And if you think about, that person might have got stabbed or shot because it was coincidental that there was an offender there with a gun at the time. Nah. The person with the gun or the knife is there, and they're doing it to them for a reason. And coincidence is not the reason. No, not in my opinion. And when you work to that mindset, you become better at it. What do you think actually happens in Area 51? Says United Bruno. Got no idea. And what's the best drink? Orange juice or apple juice? Well, you lot can decide that. I mean, I can tell you live on the Twitter replies, apple juice is winning with 55% of the vote. I would go apple juice because I'm allergic to orange juice. There we go. Where do you get your confidence from? Says Karan Kira. Well, I just went down Poundland and bought it. But no, seriously, I wouldn't. I'm not actually a confident person. I do doubt myself a lot, and I think a lot of people do. And I've said this before. Very, very important. This, your Instagrammers and everything like that. I just want people to know this. Do you know how long these proper Instagrammers spend getting the right picture with the right filters? They don't just go, I've just got up, I've just had a crap, perfect picture. No, they haven't. They've done their makeup, they've got their clothes right, they've got the lighting right, and they're like, not sure about that one. Oh, let's add a little of contrast on that, a bit of saturation. It's the fake life. And, what you see here, I still have a pot noodle for my lunch every now and again. They all do. And it's like Coronation Street. It's not real. And a lot of what people see, I just hate it when people live up to... I've met a lot of celebrities who on the telly come across as really nice, complete, not nice people. So enjoy it, but don't infatuate with it that you think, oh, their life's better than mine, because it's not. So when you say, where do you get your confidence from? I do think that this is a good one as well. I was only thinking this week, and I wasn't going to mention it on the show. It's only because you reminded me there. I was in a situation, I was walking the dog the other day, Robbie, and I crossed the road, and there was a couple with a dog waiting on the other side of the road. And it's one of those, it was a busy road, so you cross to the middle bit, and then you cross again. And they didn't decide to cross, they were still on the other side. So I crossed with my dog, and they were sort of looking at me. And I said, morning, and looked at them, and they never said anything. I just carried on walking, and I thought, it's odd. They've got a dog. They're looking at me. I look at them. I say morning, and they don't even say morning. Now, I think probably in my 20s and certainly in my teens, I would have found that really cringe, because I've said hello to them and they haven't said hello to me, and it would have just made me feeling a bit cringy inside. But at my age now, I just thought, fucking, you know, whatever. If you haven't got any manners, whatever, I ain't bothered. I've put myself out there. I suppose in many ways it's a virtual high five, isn't it? And you've just not given it me. You've left me hanging. But so what? I've got manners. You haven't. You walk on. And I think the older I've got, a lot of people said this to me. When you get in your 20s, you don't know who you are, and in your 30s, as you go through it, you start to realise who you are, and you become comfortable with it. And there are things about you that you don't like, but there are a lot of things that you've ironed out. And I think that's it. These cringy moments or lack of confidence, I don't really get anymore. If I meet somebody like Gareth Southgate or whoever, I'm not like, oh my God, it's Gareth Southgate, or oh my God, it's Marcus Rashford, or anything like that. I'm just like, shake their hand, have a chat with them. If they're good people, they're good people. If they're not, you know, so what? You know, it doesn't really bother me. So I suppose what I would say is, yeah, the older you get, hopefully the more comfortable you become in your shoes, and I just don't get those self-doubt, cringe moments anymore, and that has come with age. But actually, where do you get your confidence from? I think it comes from within. It does come within, because you've got to champion yourself. You have to champion yourself. I remember reading a book probably 10 years ago, and it was just basically, the one thing I took from the whole book was that your biggest detractor or your biggest issue is, not me personally, but anybody, is the voice inside your head. If that voice inside your head says you can't do it, or I'm too nervous to do it, or anything like that, there's nobody, no one's coming up to you on the tube or on the train or on the street and going, you're crap, you're rubbish. If they are, call the police. But no, they're not. But there's someone in your head telling you that, and that voice, you've got to suppress that voice. You've got to suppress that voice that allows you to doubt yourself. Because how many times do you go into an exam or a driving test or whatever, or into a situation in a pub or whatever, and you don't do something because you're being told by the voice in your head, you can't do that, or you'll make an idiot of yourself. And sometimes you've got to stop. And I remember something, funnily enough, when I went into the police when I was very young, and I was in uniform, and I used to work in the city centre, and it was so busy. And one of the things I used to hate doing was updating the log. I'd always try and do it on the phone call. So every job, there's a log created. If you phone up and say, I've lost a can of baked beans, or I'm being held at gunpoint with a water pistol, whatever, that will create a log, and then that log has to be closed off. So if I phoned up, I'd say log 42 of today's dates, spoken to the person, they found their car, it was always in the garage, whatever, right? So close the log. But sometimes you couldn't get through on the phone, so you'd actually go into the control centre, and the control centre, they were just so busy, and a certain personality, quite, you know, confident or whatever. I don't know. I just hated going in there. Absolutely hated going in there, because they'd always, all eyes would sort of be on you, if that makes sense. And you also had to be quite confident to get their attention, because they were dealing with lots of things as well. So I never used to like it. But I got to a point in my life where I was just like, I know you don't want to do it, but it's the voice in your head that's telling you, I don't want to go in there, anything like that. So there's nobody tapping me on the shoulder telling me you can't do it, you're not good enough to do it. So I just used to go in there every day, even though I could pick the phone up and do it that way, and it was a lot easier. I'd make myself go in there every day, and I'd actually say to the people on my team, have you got any logs that need updating, just put a post-it on and I'll go and do them, to make myself go into that situation that I wasn't comfortable with, to deal with it. And then after a couple of weeks, you do it and you feel better for it, because you're putting yourself into a situation that your brain's telling you that you can't do, that you can. And I think that's a good thing as well. Opinions on Eurovision, pal. It's up there with coronavirus for me. That's a joke. Of course I'd much rather go to the Eurovisions than have that. And explain a normal day in the life of you. Jack, that would be so boring. It really would. Is it game over when you stutter in an argument? How do you solve it? Is it game over when you stutter in an argument? Yeah. Well, no. I think confidence. Going back to that point before, you know, I remember like doing a presentation, and I knew the subject matter, but it was an awkward presentation because it was in a room, and it sort of curved round like that. So there was no, when everyone's in front of you, I think you've got behind you and to the side to you as neutral zones, but this sort of curved around me, and I started it off, and I caught eye contact with a couple of people, and I thought they don't have confidence in me, and two, they don't have confidence in the subject, and I just started to stutter and lose it, and basically lost the presentation from there. And then the next one I did, I sort of learned from that and was like, their eyes are on me. Their eyes are on me. It's my job to be interesting, and it's my job to just be confident, and and sort of intimidate them to. I think communication's all about subliminals, definitely, but it's also about ego, isn't it? In a more neutral way. That look, you're not intimidating people in a bullying way, but you've got to make them believe in what you're talking about. And if you show a weakness, then they'll just be there going, "Oh, wasn't they crap?" and this, that, and the other. So I think stuttering. Look, if you do stutter, own it. Don't in your presentation go, "Oh, I've just stuttered there. I've made a twat of myself." Just sort of paper the cracks and carry on. There's football managers out there that are brilliant at papering the cracks. They can lose 3 or 4 games in a row, but then they win a game and I'm brilliant. So yeah, it's all Jose Mourinho is brilliant at it. Absolutely brilliant at it. Jose Mourinho is probably one of the best people to look at in relation to interpersonal skills and the ability to con the viewer. Brilliant manager in his time, but he's also in recent years gone through times that just don't stand up. He's not been that great, but he's always box office, and he's always very good at selling himself. And you can learn a lot. I think football is such an interesting dynamic anyway, especially in relation to you can see so many players that are just absolutely terrified of being interviewed, and they start going at the end of the day, and you can tell that they're not comfortable in that situation. But then you look at some managers and they're just absolutely brilliant at it. First celebrity crush, Kenzie, definitely Chesney Hawkes. No, Kylie Minogue, definitely Kylie Minogue. This is a story I might have told before. There was a mate of mine who, when we were at primary school, we were about 6. Maybe a little bit older, maybe 7 or 8, and you believe any old crap when you're a kid, and I believed that. I just remember actually we went on a bike ride once, me and my mate, and his brother came with us, and we were about 13 and his brother was about 8, and we basically convinced him that on this bike ride, when you go through these woods and you come out the other end, you're in Australia, and he believed us. Unbelievable. But talking of which, we're at primary school, we all had a crush on Kylie Minogue, and one of our mates said, you do know Kylie Minogue's staying at my house for the week. She fancied a holiday from Australia, and she knows her best friend knows my auntie, so she's staying at our house. So we all went round his house that night, and of course she wasn't there, but he convinced us that she was going to be there. Absolute crack of crap, really. Who's your favourite Doctor Who, says Rob McCarthy. Not a fan of Doctor Who or Star Trek. I'd go as far as to say that, no, I'm not going to call people that, but not a fan of it. If you become a millionaire, which non-league club would you give a thick cash injection to, says Scrub? None. No, not doing that. And what's the best way to get over a lost one, says Cameron? Time. You got to grieve. I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but you've got to grieve, because you're grieving because you love them, and you've got to go through it, and time is the healer. There's not a cure. It's not like a hangover or a headache. You've got to go through it, and I've said this before as well. The thing about grief is, when somebody's there that you care about, they're there. When they're not there, they're gone, right? But that weight of them still exists in your life, because they may be gone, but who they are is a heavy weight to burden. And what basically happens is, when they go, they're in your heart, and your heart gets heavy. And what happens in time is you get used to carrying that weight, so you go back to normal again, but you never lose them, and that's what happens. And I think that's the best explanation of it, but it does take time. Ryan says, with the country going through its biggest economic nightmare post-Brexit, the pound is worth less than ever before. The possible of a pandemic due to a new virus. I've constructed my question to get really into your brain. Chips or hash brown? Definitely hash brown. I do like chips, but definitely hash brown. And what did you enjoy more, The Inbetweeners or The Office? The Office, Mohsin. Yeah, definitely Office. I like The Inbetweeners, but I prefer The Office. And dream job when I was young, definitely be a footballer. And this is a good question from Shah. It says, when you die, would you rather be remembered for a short time by many or remembered for a long time by few? I think when you're dead, you're dead. You know, bury the dead, they stink up the place, so it won't really matter to me whether I'm remembered for a long time or a short time, to be honest. What I want to be remembered for is as a good person by good people. The world is full of hate, the world is full of trolls, the world is full of bitter people, unfortunately, and every day I'm reminded of that. People put words into your mouth, people put lies out there about you, and it all comes from bitter hate, jealousy. I don't know. It's just not very nice. But the thing that keeps me sane is that you don't have to be liked by everybody. Just the good people will do. And I would hope that in the time that I've been here, that the good people would allow my legacy to be that I was a good person. But who knows? There's so many people who put crap out there. It's just sad. It is sad. But remember me for my charity work. £20,000 raised so far for cancer charities. Remember me for that. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash on a like on the video. Hope you're enjoying it. Back again next week. We'll also have a brand new series, episode 2 on Friday, top 5s. We did top 5 Netflix series last Friday. If you've not seen that, check it out. I'll put a little link in the video description. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll speak to you soon.